Yeah, everybody, we're just ready for the second episode of TLT show with Gerard Brown. This is a great pleasure to have him in our live talk, and I myself really enjoyed his responses to all the questions, not only from me but also from the audiences. That was, I think, so fruitful to receive all those responses from Ged. Yeah, Ged, I have you here now, and I'm just gonna add you into the talk. That's, yeah, great. Good, we're willing to have you here. Yeah, great.
Hey.
Yeah. Have you taken a glass of water or a cup of tea?
I've had a sip of my drink. I have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I've just gone to bring my pot close to me.
Oh, very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
in order to have my herbs. And
Mm.
I should say that I'm really respectful to all the Muslim audiences who are watching us, because I know that it's in Ramadan and most of them are fasting, but it's because of the stomachache that I have to have mint tea or something like that in order to take it, yeah, to feel safe during the live talk. Let me see who our audiences are. Yeah, that's right. This is Ivana, Screen Webinar, Aida, Santa, Jennifer, Mujgan, Bernie, Ataf Arzamnia. Yeah, that's great. So, as I said before, I'm just gonna put the comments off, and I'm just gonna go to the questions that I said before, ending the first session. How does destinations? At first, I'm just gonna focus on Iran, and after that, you can go globally. That's right. How does destination should adapt themselves with post-COVID-19 situation?
Okay, I think as a destination, the first thing that we need to do is build trust. So, people need to be reassured that if they travel to your destination, be it Iran or anywhere, that they are going to be safe, and that the risk of catching any form of a virus is negligible. So I think that's one of the first things that we need to think of, and what we need to try and think of what's going to make them feel safe and trustworthy. So, if it's in a hotel and the hotel comes out and says that they're doing certain checks before people go in, a bit like we have security checks in lots of different hotels in the world, maybe they should be doing that, just to demonstrate that, once you get into that hotel, the risk of any infection is negligible. The same with food and beverage, hygiene. I think hygiene and attention to detail on hygiene, I think that will be a big part of it as well, showing that you have the necessary hygiene. And by the way, there's a difference between having the necessary hygiene standards and actually letting people know about it. You can have the best hygiene in the world in your hotel or property or company or destination, but if people don't know about that, so you need to think about how you can show that and how you can let people know about that. And I think that there's probably going to be national organisations which can take a role on that. Almost linked with the previous question, actually, what governments can do to help. They can help make sure that different establishments are certified, if they are up to the right standards of hygiene, that they have some kind of a certification on that, and then that lets everybody know that these are up to the mark. So I think the hygiene element will be a big part of it.
Yeah, as you talked about the hygiene elements, and you took the part of government into promoting a destination by the help of a third party. A third party could be UNWTO, could be, I don't know, WTACH, I don't know, maybe, and the other associations, international associations. I just want to come into a private sector yet. When we talk about destinations, okay, there are some private sectors who work as DMC, as inbound, tour operators that are supposed to promote their destinations in order to attract more tourists. What should they do?
I think they should still promote their destinations. They should be. What I'm sort of seeing again on all of my feeds is I'm seeing a lot of videos of destinations, which I think is wonderful. So I saw one recently which I shared, and it went crazy, and it was a train ride through the Swiss Alps, and I was transfixed by this, because that made me think, God, I'd love to go to the Swiss Alps, and that's what it's about. It's doing. You still have to communicate what you've always communicated. You still have to keep that dream alive, but you're having to do it knowing that you're not going to get any bookings right now. And it's going to take a while for those bookings to come. But you've got to keep doing it, because if you don't have a presence in the market, come the recovery, you're going to be nowhere. So you have to keep your company at the forefront of people's mind, and you do that by really, really great, powerful content about the destination, about the experiences that you provide, about all of that kind of stuff.
Let me get more into details. How do you define to be present in markets?
To be present in market, I suppose what I define by that is that people know you exist. You need to maintain your relevance. So, if you are a DMC, if you're an inbound operator or an outbound operator, how do you usually go to market? How do you let people know that you exist? For me, it's all about content. Content has to be a key part of what you do. Producing, good, smart content. How many times, and I want to stress here as well, this is the best possible time for you to try stuff out. Because as I mentioned before, nobody is succeeding right now. Everybody is failing. There has never been a better time to fail than right now. Because if you try doing a podcast or a video of yourself in your local destination talking about your passion for your destination, if it gets 2 views, so what? You can't fail, because nobody is succeeding. Nobody's getting bookings anyway. You're not going to get any huge bookings right now, and neither is anybody else. Neither is Expedia, by the way. So never has there been a better time to fail. Try stuff out. Feel liberated by the fact that you can try any crazy ideas you've had in the past, and you've held back because you're scared it might fall flat on its face and be a failure. Well, now, do you know what? That doesn't matter. You don't need to have that fear anymore, because right now, nobody is succeeding. So on this playing field, you can go for all the crazy stuff. Do that podcast. Do that video of yourself in the destination talking passionately about how you love your destination so much and everything else, because you cannot fail. And I think that's what businesses, especially small private businesses, that's what they need to grasp. This is a golden opportunity that we've never had before. It's a level playing field, and you can't fail. You can't fail, because we're already getting nothing. What's going to be worse than that? There's nothing worse than that. This situation, it can't possibly get any worse. So feel liberated by that, and start doing the stuff that you sort of thought might be a good idea, but you were scared of doing it in case it failed. Now it doesn't matter. Go for it anyway. You cannot fail. You will not end up worse than you are now.
I do appreciate your inspiring quote again. When nobody is succeeding, so nobody fails.
Yeah, but
that was great. That was great.
It's true. But that's how I feel. I'm no different to anybody else here. I've never been working harder in my life than the past 8 weeks, and I've never received less for it in my life. I'm not getting a penny for any of the work that I've been doing. But that's what you have to do. Yes, there's no bookings coming in, but just to sit by and do nothing, that is not an option. What you have to do is work harder than ever, learn new skills, because it is an opportunity at the end of this to come out an awful lot stronger. What you don't want to do is come out of this the way in which you came into it. That's not acceptable, in my opinion. That's not trying. We should be working harder than we have ever worked in our lives. And like I say, that's what I'm doing. I've never worked as hard. I'm up at 5 every morning. I'm working through till late at night. I'm not taking any days off. I said to my wife, I said, God, this is crazy. I've genuinely never worked as hard in my life and got so little for it. But I'm absolutely loving it, because I can't fail. I can't go wrong. What? I might not get paid. Well, I'm not getting paid. It doesn't matter. So that fear is taken from me. It might not be successful. Well, nothing's successful right now. That fear is taken from me. Now I feel like I'm bulletproof. I feel like this is the best time of my life, because I now have the courage to do anything without fear of failure, without fear of loss of money. I can just go after anything and everything. And that is the way in which you have to view it. So much in life is about how you react to situations. My mother always used to say this. She said, it's not about what happens to you in life that counts. It's how you react to that. And here's the key. You get to choose how you react to it. So you get to choose whether you sit in a corner, crumpled, crying and beaten, and you get to choose whether you're going to get off and you're just going to work hard and who cares if it's successful or not? I'm going to get up and I'm going to work because maybe something good will come out of this. We get to choose our attitude. And when you truly grasp that, actually, by the way, in every aspect of your life, when you truly grasp that you get to control how you react to everything, trust me, you are bulletproof, because no matter what life throws at you, you take stock and you think, well, look, I can decide how I'm going to deal with that. And I can decide if it's going to beat me, and I can decide if I'm going to crack on and work harder than ever. So that would be my advice. I know it sounds like it's idealistic, but actually, really, when you get under the skin of this, and it's almost like a philosophy, I guess, you find it strangely liberating.
Even it is maybe rather a philosophy, because as at the beginning of our live talk, you said you are a tourism man. Yep. You provided me with two quotes. The first one was, when no one is succeeding, so no one fails. And the second was that it's not important what happened, it's important how you react to the happenings. And this is what you say, and it's not important what you've been doing, it's important that you love and you've been working. And on the basis of your speech, you said in the previous 8 weeks, it was the hardest time in your life, in your tourism life, that's right?
Hardest I've worked, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Great.
Yeah.
I just want to come into destination. We get into travel agents, we get into tour operators, and you said you tell them, you inspire them what to do. You didn't say that they shouldn't do it, and they're going to Instagram or to Facebook, or then they're going to website. No, you've given them, I think, the whole energy to understand what they should do. That's okay. But I just want to ask you this question. If you're talking about an exotic destination, it's not France, it's not Spain, it's not Italy, it's not the United States of America, this is Iran. An exotic destination. I just want to say what I think, and after they tell me if it is right, and after they go through your response. This is a golden opportunity for Iran. Why? Because before COVID-19, we had such awful events in our country, which they themselves killed our tourism totally. By COVID-19, all of them are forgotten with international communities, and everybody is thinking about COVID-19. Do you think that is it an opportunity for Iran in order to become flourished after COVID-19?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like we keep saying, COVID-19 has given the whole world a reset button. Especially in terms of travel and tourism, we've got this reset button whereby the only stuff that's on the news is COVID-19. And let me tell you, everybody is in exactly the same boat. Everyone has to cope with this. Every destination is coping with this. And you know what? No one is coming out of this well. Now, that sounds kind of bad. But actually, again, it's linked to the point that we were saying before about failure. If nobody's coming out of it well, then that means we're all coming out of it pretty much the same. So, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that it's just been a brilliant opportunity for Iran because as well, all anybody is talking about is COVID-19. So, yes, I think for an exotic destination, there is an opportunity. And I think as well, a lot of people are talking about, and I agree with it myself, there's going to be a very slow recovery for tourism. I think there's also, anecdotally, there's been a lot of people that have been saying, now that their wings have been clipped and none of us can travel anywhere, there's been a few of those. I was speaking to my sister and she was saying, yeah, I'm just really scared that maybe I've missed the opportunity for traveling to exotic destinations. So I think there could be an opportunity as well for, if we can sort this out, if we can come through the other side, that people will not take for granted that I could travel to Iran at any time. They might be more inclined to think, you know what, I don't know when the next pandemic's coming, but I want to travel and get and see these places before it comes, because I might not get the opportunity again. And I think that could be a positive side. And I think there could be people who think, like I do, I actually want to go with my 2 young daughters and my wife to see a lot of places. And once this lockdown finishes, I want to do that quickly because, do you know what? The next pandemic might be considerably worse. So I think you need to take your opportunity while you can. So it's another side of it, really.
I'm not going to think about the next pandemic.
I know, yeah. Let's get through this one first. I know.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to say to our audiences that I'm receiving all your questions, but I will share it. This is my last question, and after that, I will go to your questions because there are a lot of questions, and I know that it takes a huge time for Get to answer all those. But let me ask my final questions, and then I will go to the audiences. Nowadays, we're usually talking about collectivity. And I think this is one of the most important opportunities that provide the tourism activists to release better services to audiences, to travelers, I mean. What are your solutions? What are your ideas about collectivity? What can we do? What should we do? How can we do collectivity?
When you talk about collectivity, sorry, just for so I'm clear on that, what do you mean by that? Do you mean what, people getting together?
Not people, tourism activists. I mean hotel chains, I mean aviation clubs, I mean travel agents, tour operators.
Collaboration.
Yeah, a kind of collaboration that we can take it as a collectivity. Then when they get together in that meaning, it means that, for example, we can decrease the price for traveling for people. On the other hand, we can provide new destinations for them. Or in other way, when a travel agent or when a tour operator come into collaboration with an airline or with a kind of hotel, we can release a new destination with lower price, with better quality. This is what I mean out of collectivity.
Look, my take on that, and please tell me if I'm getting the wrong end of the stick on that, is I think there has never been, again, a better time or a more important time for us to get together and to collaborate. So, if you're talking about, the travel agents, the DMCs, small players, again, right now we've got nothing. So nobody's got cash because we haven't got any tourists. So what I'm encouraging people to do is think about what you have got. So if I'm a DMC in Iran, for example, now, and you are either a DMC or a hotelier in Iran, I've got a network that maybe is different to yours that we could key into to get messages out there. Maybe we should collaborate, and I can market to your network and you can market to my network. So, we can do these kind of barters. So I think it's about sort of the spirit of collaboration has to be absolutely key, because we have got stuff that each other value. We just don't have cash. So, we're talking before about upskilling. And, there might be somebody who's an absolute whiz at social media, and maybe they're looking to try and get more into the tourism industry. Well, maybe they could offer me social media advice and I could, accounting advice but I think it has to be an exchange of skills, because that's what we have got. That's the currency. Our currency now.
I do not know if the audiences have Get or not.
That's what we have to do, because you sorry. Are you there? Sorry,
Get, I have you now.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. We've missed the previous 20 seconds.
Oh, okay. No, I was just saying about basically collaboration is the new currency. Nobody has cash. What we do have is we have skills and attributes that we can, work with each other on. So we can come together collectively for a common good. And I sort of think as well, if you are an inbound DMC or a hotelier, in the past, maybe you've had other small players who are competitors. And I think right now, everybody needs to get together, because the first port of call is if it's Iran, sell Iran first. First of all, let's get people to Iran. Once we've got them hooked on coming to Iran, then we'll have a little fight as to who's gonna take them around and everything up. But the first things first, in unity, Iran first, and then we'll figure the rest. And I'll tell you again, who is great at this is Tourism Australia. The Australians are brilliant. The different regions in Australia, the different territories, they compete vociferously. However, first of all, it's Australia first. On the global stage, where as a consumer, I can go next year for my vacation, I can go to Australia, I can go to New Zealand, I can go to Iran. My choices are huge. What they all agree on first is sell Australia first. Let's get them hooked on Australia first. Then we'll figure out where in Australia they're going to go to and everything else. But first of all, sell the dream of Australia. That has to be number one. So my message out there again to all of the DMCs, the operators in Iran, is first of all, right now during the lockdown, sell Iran first. Sell the dream of Iran. Sell what's positive about Iran. Sell the culture of Iran. Sell the people of Iran, the personalities of Iran. Get me hooked as a consumer on Iran. And then we'll be able to figure out, where I'm going to go to when I get there. But first of all, come together to sell Iran because it's a global stage. And at the moment, no tourists are booking anywhere. When they open up, you want them to think of Iran first. So in that aim, you all need to bandy together and work together collaboratively.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me go to the audience's questions. At first, let me appreciate all the audiences, because now in Iran it is the time in Ramadan that people have the permission to eat.
Oh,
and
wow.
Now, and now they have watching our live talk, and I really appreciate all. I really appreciate Tom.
I hope they're eating while they're enjoying live talk, because I would be.
And maybe they're eating while they're watching.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a good point. And another thing is that our live talk will be kept in a story of TLT show for 24 hours. And after that, you can watch the whole live talk in TLT show channel in Telegram software that you can keep it. Okay, let me go through the first questions. But before the first question, I just want to ask you that to get a little upper in order to have your face when I share it.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. That's great. Okay. That's great. That's great. But let me just we will check it with such a question. Even you can get a little upper. Okay.
Okay. There you go.
What would be what would be the best strategy to enter into a target destination?
Okay. I suppose to try and clarify on that, best to enter into a target destination. If this is a target destination, if you're an inbound agency or operator, I'm guessing that you're looking at a target to come inbound. Look, strategy-wise, I don't know. I mean, the tools, generally speaking, are that you should, certainly, social media is a key part of it because, for the most part, it's free unless you're paying for it. But I would suggest that it's all about content. It's about getting content out there and engaging people in that destination. But also remember, nobody is booking anything right now. So there are a lot of messages out there. My take on it would be, consider your own business and consider the niche that you're looking to enter. So, every tourism authority in the world is looking for the UK market, the German market, and all of that. What niche of the UK market? If it's the UK market that you're looking for, what's the niche that you're looking for? What's the age demographics that you're looking for? Is it couples? Is it couples who are over 50 that maybe have had kids that have flown the nest? Is it over 60s maybe? I don't know. Is it under 30s, the adventurous type and everything else? Have a think about exactly the profile of the people that you're trying to attract, and then tailor your messaging to those kind of people through the social media. And I would say go as niche as you possibly can. Again, that's what I wanted to do with Low Season Traveler, is everybody's selling the same old seasons all the time. Take the opposite season. And yes, it's a smaller market, but at least I can get a shout out. So if you type, Low Season Travel on Google, I'm going to get on the first page. If you type travel into Google, I'm page, 1,000 or whatever else. And that's just it. If you look at niche, you can get a presence on Google. You can get a presence on social media a lot easier if you go more niche. Yes, it's smaller, but you'll get more resonance from it, and you'll get more of a response from it as well. So niche would be the way forward, I would suggest.
Yeah, the point is here that following the previous questions, it was another idea of that should we release any kind of discounts, or we should be aggressive?
It's a really tough one, isn't it? I I suspect there is going to be a lot of discounting. It depends on, you know, how much your particular model can withstand any discounting, and it depends on. I think it depends on a lot of things, really. It depends on what's going to happen with the prices of getting to your destination as well. For me, I'm kind of against discounting because I just feel that if I discount, then my competition's going to discount, and all that happens is we're all going to be selling at the same kind of price, but we're all just making a lot less from it. So for me, I'd rather kind of upsell, give them more than they've paid for. So actually, it was Bill Marriott. I was speaking to a guy recently who's spoken to Bill Marriott about this with regards to hotels and during crisis and recovery. And he was saying, look, during a recovery for hotels, and this is the same ethos on this discounting, you know, don't necessarily discount, but close the bottom floors of your hotel and upgrade everybody. Have them all on the top floors. So you're not paying for the staff and the costs of the bottom floors. And everybody that does come, they're going to be blown out of the water by the amazing service that they've had, in the amazing suite that they've got, all of that kind of stuff. So for me, over-deliver rather than discount. That would be my recommendation.
I love this question, Get, because most of the topic that we've shared with each other was about maybe B2C or how to make dreams and such sort of thing, that or very technically related to tour operators and travel agents. B2B marketing or B2B relationship. How can we survive tourism industry through B2B relationships?
I mean, I would very nearly suggest, Mohammed, that you would be a better one to answer this, because you know what you've done here with Tourism Live Talk is a great example of what to do. You know, you've created Tourism Live Talk. It's B2B, and you know you've done it brilliantly. It's really well executed. You get wonderful guests on the show, which engage with your audience, and you bring people together. So, you know, for me, you know, I think you're probably the better one to answer that. Surely, for my part, I'm doing the same as you, Mohammed. I'm, you know, working with the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage. We set up our own webinar series. I've got my podcast, which goes B2B as well as B2C.
I'm into it.
You're into it. Very good. So, you know, I think it's just, again, it's a great question, but it's about trying stuff. You know, if you want to get on B2B, why not set up your own, you know, a webinar or a live talk type of thing that's on a niche that's slightly different, and maybe Mohammed would be a guest. And, you know, by the way, for your first one, you might have 3 listeners. And, you know, frankly, it doesn't matter because you'll learn skills in that first one. And I would imagine, Mohammed, you know, you can help me out here. When you did your first Tourism Live Talk, how good or polished were you for that first one, being honest, compared to what you're like now?
10% of what I've been doing now.
Yeah, but you learn so much so quickly, right? And that's the whole point. Right now, this is a great time to learn all of this stuff because, you know, in the early days, same with my podcast. My first podcast is awful, beyond awful. And there was about 5 listeners. And those 5 listeners, by the way, was my mum, my brother, and my sisters, maybe my wife. And, you know, the sad part is now on the podcast, that particular one has had loads of downloads. But I learned from that, and it was a great time to learn before the audience got big, because, you know, the audience does grow big. And like you'll have found during these Tourism Live Talks, Mohammed, it grows big actually relatively quickly, you know, over weeks. But in those early weeks, you know, you get to learn. It's a learning process. So again, use this time to learn. And, you know, again, the point from last time, be the spotlight. Don't seek to be in the spotlight. So I would say with the B2B relationships, think what you can offer to those other businesses. What can you provide for them? Can you give them a spotlight, a spot on your show or on your podcast? Maybe the stuff that you can do for them, but think what you can do for them. And I believe that it will then come back to you.
Great. If I just want to share my idea, because when you are here, I'm just a learner, not a speaker. I'm just a learner. Okay. Because when I see your knowledge, I have nothing to say.
Stop. You know, look, but we're all only learning, Mohammed. I'm learning. I'm 49 years of age. I've been in the industry 30 years. Believe me, I'm still learning. You know, and I've got so much to learn as well.
Thank you. For B2B marketing, there are 3 main issues. At first, try, but do not insist. The second thing, be short, but direct. And the third idea, let's see what your interlocutors are looking to, not what you're supposed to offer. Just that. Then we will talk about it. Okay, because now it's the time that you should provide us with your fruitful responses. This is not a question, but it's good. Such a frank talk. Although we heard some disappointing info, thanks a million for golden experiences that you have shared. But let me go to the next. Wow. Should we always stick to post-COVID idea as it will never completely disappear?
That's a great point. Really fantastic question. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? When we talk about post-COVID, it's like this thing is going to go away completely. And the only way to eradicate it completely would be to have a vaccine which is universal, worldwide accepted. So, yeah, I take that point. I don't think it's ever going to go away completely. I think it'll come back, possibly in different strains. I think it's more about how can we live with COVID, and how can we have a tourism industry in a world where COVID exists? Because I tend to agree with you. I don't think that COVID will ever go completely. So yeah, I think you're right. I think we should. That's a really, really great point. I think we should be framing this as how can we live with COVID? I agree with you completely. Great point, actually.
Thank you. What are the chances for less popular destinations to become more popular in post-COVID-19 era?
Huge. Again, linked with what I'm trying to do with low season traveler. But, I would almost put it back to the audience. Would you want to travel to a really packed and sweaty Venice, or a crazy busy Singapore or Delhi? We're not going to be wanting to be around huge crowds of people. You're just not, because there is a real or perceived risk that there's a greater chance of infection of some sort. So, yeah, I think that people will want to go to less popular destinations, or, and this is the key, or the traditional destinations, but at a less popular time of the year. And that's our opportunity to flatten seasonality. We have this golden opportunity to flatten the seasonality curve. And I really do think that's going to be one of the really positive upshots from this. Yeah.
Great. Ziba asked us, please save this live. Yeah, okay, I will. I will sure save it for 24 hours on Instagram. And after that, I told you that you can find the whole video on Telegram channel, that we will share the whole video with all our audiences. I really appreciate you to accept our invitation into the live talk. I really enjoyed it. That was great. And I'm sure that our audiences learned a lot out of your fruitful speeches and insightful responses. It was so great to me to host you, and my honor. That was great. That was great, Get.
My honor to be on the show, and actually, look, I've learned a huge amount from yourself and from your questions, Mohammed, of course, but also from the questions of our listeners. I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways, and I, really, whoever it was that asked that question, I'm sorry I didn't catch the name, but about, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to pass it off as my own, but living with COVID. You're absolutely right. That's my big takeaway from this. Let's stop talking about post-COVID. That's absolute genius. Really great insight. Thank you for that.
Yeah, if I don't come up with a mistake, the person who asked the last question was Mr. Mak Wartunasian, as one of the greatest tour operators in Iran. He's one of the experienced one who asked such a question. I really appreciate him.
Brilliant question.
For joining us, for asking such a questions. It's your time, Get, to talk with your audiences. And after that, we will say goodbye to you with the great honor that we have now to have you in our Tourism Live Talk.
Oh, perfect. Listen, I just want to say thank you very much again to you, Mohammed, for inviting me to be a part of this show. It's been a great experience for me. You've asked me questions that have actually really made me think as well, quite sincerely, about my responses. And I think it's always good to have forums like this, because the more we ask the difficult questions, then we are forced to think about new and original solutions. And I think by all of us getting together and discussing these kind of issues, we can actually learn a huge amount and gain a huge amount of knowledge and exchange knowledge between all of us. So I thank you most sincerely for hosting me on the show. And thank you so much for all of the listeners and the watchers for all of your comments and for your attention. Again, I'm humbled. And I just hope that some of what I was saying made sense. And I hope it was of some use. I appreciate that, we're not in a good place right now as a global travel and tourism industry. And I appreciate that, some of what I was saying is not really what everybody wanted to hear in terms of where I think we're going to be for the recovery. What I will say is, just to reiterate, this is a great opportunity for all of us. But I would say, especially if you are the small players, we're on a level playing field. We've hit the reset button. Now is the opportunity. If we work incredibly hard, we can come out of this stronger than when we went into it. It will take time, but we will get through it. And I think just try and focus on this is the opportunity that we've got rather than a crisis that we have. Remember that as well. I think is it in the Chinese language that the word crisis actually means opportunity. And I think that's a really interesting take on it as well. Crisis does mean opportunity. And I think we need to remember it is an opportunity. And it's up to us whether we decide to take that opportunity or not. But I would urge everybody to take the opportunity. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I should say that, Ged, on May 7th, we will have another speaker that is my honor to host her, and you know her well. Caroline Schultz is my guest on May 7th at 1:30 Manchester time, I think, 4 p.m. Tehran time. And if you have anything to say about Caroline, you can say and invite our audiences.
Caroline is one of the best travel and tourism researchers on the planet, in my opinion. And she's also, quite genuinely a lovely person, which always really helps. But I had Caroline on my podcast a couple of months ago. And one of the great insights that Caroline shared with me, and I'm sure she'll share it with you, we were talking about over-tourism. And this is how Caroline's sort of mind works on this. But when we talk about over-tourism, it's always somebody else that's causing the over-tourism. And we're reminded of when we're sat in traffic at the traffic lights and we're talking to our wives or our husbands and say, oh, this traffic is awful, like it's everybody else. And you forget that actually you are the traffic. We are the traffic. We are the problem as well. But you don't always see it that way. You see it as everybody else is the traffic that's the problem. But your car's in it as well. You're a part of that problem. And that's the same with over-tourism. And it's the same with a lot of the problems in the world. We talk about it like it's somebody else, but actually we're a part of that problem. And that was something that I learned from Caroline. So I think it's going to be a great talk on Thursday with Caroline. She's one of the best in the industry and one of the most knowledgeable people that I know. So I'll certainly be tuning in for that one. I'm really looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, good. I'm just going to say goodbye, but the audiences don't let me.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah,
well, look, I've got time. I'm enjoying it.
When I ask you questions about COVID-19, Sahand corrected me, or maybe recorrected the questions. He said that he didn't mean that what we should do for post-COVID-19. He think that COVID-19 takes around 2 years, as the questions are here. I didn't ask about post-COVID-19. I asked about the situation inside it that maybe takes for 2 years and maybe more, But yeah, they exactly here. Do you think that can we have group tours in the long period or just completely individual?
I mean, look, short answer is, I don't know. All I know is that, look, from all that I've seen and all that I've heard and everybody that I've spoken to, groups is going to be a really hard one to get back. I think it depends on how we address the health and sanitation issues. If we can as close as Damas guarantee that we are going to address all of the hygiene issues and make sure that everything is as clean as possible and all of that side of things, and we can reassure people on that, then maybe there's a chance. But I personally think it's just going to take a little bit longer to recover to the levels that it was at before. I think there still will be groups, but I just think that they're going to be smaller and there's going to be social distancing. And, what you also have to think on this is when we're planning this stuff, and there's a post that the Carolyn actually put on LinkedIn this morning, and it was an article in the BBC, and it was talking about the Italians setting up on their beaches perspex shields, almost like booths for the sun loungers for people to lie out on the beach. And my point to that was, you have to also stop and think, who wants that experience? So, if you start to put in ways to handle a hygiene aspect with your group tours, but it's going to involve the people in the group not being close to each other, having to be kept distant from each other, you have to think, is that taking away from the value proposition of that tour to begin with? Why do people go on these tours? Why do they go in group tours? It's to be together, to have a shared experience. If the hygiene issue is going to take away from that, then it's probably not going to be successful. So that's just something to bear in mind, I would say.
I do agree with you about the total response, but the point is here that can you really make a guess about the upcoming 2 years that on the basis of COVID-19, it's so rare to have group tours in the upcoming 2 years?
I honestly, I can't tell you, Mohammed. I don't know, and I think anybody that professes to know, they can't know. Nobody can know, because we don't know how different countries and governments are going to handle this. We don't know if they're even going to allow tourists to come in, because if you look at it, Iran suffered pretty badly with this, as did the UK. I don't know how paranoid our governments, possibly rightly and justifiably, are going to be about letting people in. So, they're having to balance off a resurgence in COVID-19 across the whole population, which would result in a lockdown, which economically is a tragedy across every industry, versus take a little bit of a pain on the tourism industry and the tourism economy. And I don't know what decision they're going to take on that. So I find that one, it's a really hard one to answer. With regards to 2 years, I think a lot of this is going to depend on the government's approach to it.
Yeah, thank you. The person who asked the previous two questions are the one who built 2 camps in 2,006 meters in Damawand and 4,600 meters in Damawand for climbing Damawand. He's a person, Mr. Sahan Daghdai, the managing director of Split Bourse, who is the person who is one of the most professional one in ecotourism in Iran, and that was the reason that I just insisted on releasing his questions, because I know that how fruitful he could help the country to flourish in his expert. But here, are there any training resources that you can offer? Of course you can.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of training resources, look, I'm sure there's absolutely stacks out there. I would say, for me personally, I've been, when it comes to learning to podcasting and things like that, I've been going on YouTube, and there's just a myriad of stuff on YouTube. I think webinars, live talks like this one, that's where I'm just learning so much stuff that's gold. And, you always get a copy of the presentations afterwards to download, to go through. But, we've never had a better opportunity. We bemoan, and I bemoan, the lack of travel and tourism events that I used to go to, where there would be very senior speakers, but they were so expensive to go. And, when you haven't got money, it's really tough. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's throwing these things on for free. So now I can sign up for a webinar free of charge and hear from the absolute leaders in our industry, the gurus in our industry. And I can glean from the knowledge from them free of charge that I never could have done pre-COVID, because I would have had to pay a ticket for an event or whatever else. So again, for me now at the moment, I'm like a sponge. I am going to so many webinars and so many different sort of trainings in this way, because they're all free and I'm getting to learn from the best in our industry. And that's, a little bit of why at WeTac, we wanted to create our, initially we're going to call it the Guru series. but it's 12 episodes to help people through recovery. And we've got the absolute top speakers in every element of the industry. And I just secured another couple today. There's going to be one by a guy called John Grant, who was from OAG Aviation, now at Midas Aviation. He is an absolute guru in terms of global aviation. Anything you want to know about global aviation and what's happening in the world of aviation today, he's your man. And so we've got him coming on. But again, that's what we're trying to do at WeTAC. It's, you know, we're trying to help people by getting the best speakers that we can so that they can learn from it, which is exactly what you're doing here, Mohammed, as well. And you're to be commended for it. It's just about exchanging information so that we can all learn on this together, because you never stop learning. So training resources, I would say sign up to all of the different webinars you can. You know, the UNWTO, they've been running some webinars. The World Travel and Tourism Council have been running webinars. Obviously, World Tourism Association of Culture and Heritage. There's absolutely loads out there. I would say sign up for all of them, because at the end of all of this, I do think, sadly, we're going to have to be paying tickets to go to events. And whilst that's great for the events industry, it's going to be hard for my purse to pay £2,000 or whatever for a ticket to go and see these speakers.
Thank you. But I just want to ask you, Ged, if it is possible, provide me with the links of Keep the Dreams Alive series. So in that case, I will share it with my audiences in TLT show in order to let them invite and having them into your webinars, because I know how fruitful they are, and they are really insightful to learn out of, because each single sentence which are shared there could be noted in order to be, you know, to come into practice for future. Thank you so much, Ged. Have a great time. That was so nice having you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, Mohammed, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. I can't stress that enough. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Cheerio. Goodbye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, all the audiences really appreciate you in order to keep yourself with us for around 1 hour and 40 minutes. I myself really enjoyed get responses, and I really appreciate your questions, which show your engagement with the speaker. And I myself appreciate you dedicatedly, heartily, because it is my great honor, it is my great pleasure to have you all here. And I try my best in order to provide with the most sufficient and up-to-date knowledge into this live talks. And this is my great honor to be the host when you are the participants. I really appreciate you all. I really appreciate you for all the questions that you share with me. And this is my great pleasure in order to be among you, in order to learn from you. And this is what I do in order to transfer the up-to-date knowledge with each other. Thank you so much. Have a great time. Bye-bye. Keep us in your mind during your fasting time. Have a good time.